All right, students, today we are starting chapter 4, and if you'll join me on page 112, today we're going to be learning about simplifying square roots. Simplifying square roots. First thing, I want to give you a definition. I'm going to give you a definition of irrational numbers. An irrational number is a number that never ends. One that I can think of is pi, right? 3.14159. That if we actually did that in here, it would go on forever if we did pi. Another would be like the square root of 2. So if I do the square root of 2, I get 1.4142135, and it just keeps going. There is no end. There's no end to this number. So that would be considered an irrational number. As opposed to, say, a rational number. What about the square root of 4? That number has an end. 2, that has an end. So irrational numbers are numbers that have no end, and we're going to be dealing with some of those today. But what I want to do first of all is I want to make a list of the first 12 perfect squares. So a list of the first 12 perfect squares. So 0 is a perfect square. 0 times 0 equals 0. 1 is a perfect square. 1 times 1 equals 1. 4 is a perfect square. 2 times 2. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 5 is 25. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8 is 64. 9 times 9 is 81. 10 times 10 is 100. And 11 times 11 is 121. And 12 times 12 is 144. So these are your first 12. These are considered perfect squares. So we're going to be looking for perfect squares in our problems today. So we have this little cheat sheet right here of perfect squares. So now we may get an irrational number. We may get an irrational number like the square root of 20. So if I did 20 and I square root it, I get this irrational number. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to simplify it. So let's go down here. And let's take the square root of 20. And I want to simplify the square root of 20. Well, what I want to do is I want to look and I want to see if 20 is made up of any of my perfect squares. And I look and, oh yeah, 20 is 4 times 5. So square root of 20 is the square root of 4 times the square root of 5. Well, what's the square root of 4? Well, the square root of 4 is 2, right? It is a perfect number. Or it is a rational number, excuse me. So the square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 5 is, I don't know. So I leave that as the square root of 5. So I simplified. The square root of 20 equals 2 times the square root of 5. So let's show you, let's do another one. Let's do 2 times the square root of 18. 2 times the square root of 18. Well, let's see. Are there any rational numbers that make up 18? Any of these perfect squares, any perfect squares that make up 18? Oh, 2 times 9. So I have 2 times the square root of 9 times the square root of 2. Square root of 9 times square root of 2 is square root of 18. So this is a perfect square, which is 3. So I could pull out the 3. So I have 2 times this 3 times the square root of 2, which I can't simplify any further. So I have 6 times the square root of 2. So there's my simplified version. Okay? What if I have, let's say, the square root of 9 over 16? Well, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to divide this into 2. So it's the square root of 9 over the square root of 16. Well, I'm fortunate here because 9 is a perfect square. Square root of 9 is 3. 16 is a perfect square. Square root of 16 is 4. And so the square root of 9 over 16 equals 3/4. What if it doesn't come out so perfectly? Let's do one more. Let's see the square root of 32 over 25. The square root of 32 over 25. So I'm going to split up. Square root of 32 over square root of 25. Well, the square root of 25, that's a perfect square, right? I see it right here. It's a perfect square. That's 5. Square root of 32, that would be 16 times 2. Now, if I don't know that, what I can do also is the square root of 32 would be 4 times 8. So I'll do it in steps. 4 times 8. Or if I knew it, I'm going to do it in 2 different steps. The square root of 16 times the square root of 2 over 5, or 4 times 8. So both of those, that equals 32, that equals 32. So that's a perfect square. So I get 2 times the square root. So 8 is 4 times 2 over 5. Or the square root of 16 is 4. So 4 times the square root of 2 over 5. So that one's done. But this one, oh look, that's a perfect square too. So I could take out another 2. So I'd have 2 times 2 times the square root of 2 over 5. 2 times 2 is 4. So I have 4 times the square root of 2 over 5. 4 times the square root of 2 over 5. So I get the same answer both times. All right. So we're going to start doing some homework and give it your best shot. All right. Square root of 24. So let's see, do we have any squares in this one? I've got, let me see. Square root of 24 is the square root of 4 times the square root of 6. So I could take out a 2. So I have 2 times the square root of 6. And that's as simplified as I can get. All right, give that a try. Oh, look at this, 162. Boy, let's see, 162 divided by 4. Nope. 162. What's our next? So I'm going to go over to this list. That was 4. Let's go to 9. So 162 divided by 9. Yeah, look at that. 9 times 18. So 162 is the square root of 18 times the square root of 9. And then I have g to the 6th. Well, if you remember, this square root means 2, right? It's the square root. So what times itself equals that? So this would be g3 times g3, right? So g6. So I could pull out the square root of g6 is g to the 3rd. So I get to pull out a 3, and I get to pull out a g to the 3rd. G to the 3rd times g to the 3rd equals g to the 6th. 3 times 3 equals 9. So let's pull this out. I got 3 g to the 3rd. And then 18. 18 is 9 times 2. Oh, look at that. I have another 3 I could pull out. So I now have 3 times 3, so that's 9. G to the 3rd times the square root of 2. So if you do it once, and then you still have another perfect square, do it again until you have no more perfect squares, until you have an irrational number there. All right, give 512 a try. Let's see. I'll give you a hint. Maybe try 8 or 64. 512. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, that was a little hint. If you caught that. All right, square root of 25 over 64. I think you could do that one. And I'll head over and I'll do this one because I think you got that. All right. So the negative stays here. I have the square root of 196. So let's see, is that divisible by 9? Nope. What's my next? 16. So 196 divided by 16. Nope. 196 divided by 4. Oh, okay, by 4. So this is 4 times 49. Oh, look at that. That's interesting. Over the square root of r to the 4th power. So 4, I could take out a 2. Not 49. Well, 49 happens to be one of my perfect squares, so it's 7 times 7. So for 49, I could take out a 7, or simplify it to 7, not take out. And then r squared times r squared equals r to the 4th. So I have 2 times 7 over r squared, and a negative. So it's negative 14 over r squared. All right, give it a go. Your homework is numbers 1 through 8. Enjoy.